Welcome to the Gil Can Run Show, episode 25. 25. That's what we meant to do. I ran the Philadelphia Marathon this past weekend. I did not hit my goal. I'll tell you why. You can probably kind of hear why. I managed to develop a cold in the middle of the race. So first half of the race, I'm doing perfect. I'm right with the 3:45 group. I am joking, I'm having a good time, everything's great. I hit the halfway point and I started dropping back. And then I realized it's because I couldn't breathe out of my nose. So I'm trying to eat, I'm trying to drink, and while I'm doing that, I can't breathe. So that started causing real problems. And then it just got worse from there. Muscle fatigue set in very quickly. Around mile 14, I kind of bonked out for a bit. And then one of my friends from my running club caught up to me, and she kind of pushed me along for a mile and a half, 2 miles, and I just couldn't. My legs started cramping up. Things were bad. So I was in really bad shape. I was in a lot of pain. I looked like hell, so I was told. It was suggested that I get medical attention, but by the time the suggestion was to get medical attention, the nearest medical booth was actually way far behind me. So by the time I got back to it, I was only like 2 miles from the finish, and I said, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to finish. Long story short, too late for that. I did end up finishing as my second best marathon time ever. 4 hours, 19 minutes. So I beat last year's Philadelphia Marathon time, which was my previous PR before Hartford. I beat that by 8 minutes with a cold. So obviously all the struggles that I've had time-wise have been all up in my head. So I was doing good. Because I've had a cold, my recovery time has expanded. My legs were very sore. I did get my 7 miles in today. I'm only going to do 1 mile tomorrow. Today started my holiday streaking challenge with my club. So it's 1 mile a day at least between now and New Year's Day. I have the Roxbury Marathon. I have the Christopher Martin's race, and the rest of it is all just training runs and just rounding out my mileage to hit my goal. The only remaining goal I have left to hitting 1,500 miles for the year. As of today, I'm at 1388. I had to remember that for a second. I'm at 1388, which is more miles than I have done in any year previous. That's a total of 3 years to pick from. So 1376 was my total at the end of last year. I'm at 1388 now. I have 112 miles to go. I hit my goal. I have new shoes that I will start using on December 1st just to make it easier for me to track the mileage that I'm using. And I ordered a Garmin today. I had to replace my 110, which went through fire. And it works, but it's been problematic ever since the fire. I've been struggling with it. The watch band is a little bit broken. This piece is broken here at the end of the band. It's bent, and it sits weird. So, and it doesn't always connect, and it doesn't always pick up satellites, and it drops satellites very easily. And it never used to do that before the fire. I've been struggling with it, waiting. And now that I had everything set to replace it, I've replaced it. I got a 620, which dropped dramatically in price the last few days because 630 is coming out on Saturday. I guess Cyber Saturday they're releasing it. So, the prices are, much higher. Even with, fantastic deals, they're going to be higher. But the 620 was like tanked in price. I got it for like $230. So it was a good deal. I went for it. That's with heart rate monitor. So I'm going to get a heart rate monitor that'll pair up with the 620, and then I'll be able to do most of the functionality of the 620, so that'll be fun. So I did that, and I should have that on Saturday. It might be Monday. I don't know yet. I gotta wait and see when they say it's been shipped, what the shipping is saying, when it's going to be delivered. We'll find out. So I will give you a whole rundown of it when I have it all set, and I will do that probably next week, because I'll have time to read through everything, learn about everything, use it a little bit, and see what happens. So I'll have fun with that, I'm sure. Hopefully I will be less congested and you know, not have a headache constantly, and my legs won't be sore constantly, because just it's been brutal. And I tell you, the worst thing in the world, when I ran the Savin Rock Marathon with a cold, it was much easier because I knew going in that I had a cold. I was prepared to have a cold. So I brought cold medicine with me, decongestant. I had Breathe Right strip on my nose to help open up and make my breathing a little bit easier. I mean, I prepared for it. I had everything set. Even now, look how tired I am. I'm tired. And not just from overeating, because, by the way, happy Thanksgiving, I suppose. I realize it's not a happy day for everyone, but happy Thanksgiving nonetheless. Although we should be grateful for everything we have every day. An attitude of gratitude is actually shown to have very positive results in the rest of your life. So, you know, just having one day where we're thankful for everything isn't necessarily the best thing. But then again, you know, we only have one day for peace and love, and one day for this, and one day for that, and ridiculous. It should be every day. The things that we celebrate on holidays, we should celebrate every day. You know, that's just the way things are. That's the way things are going. So I won't get into that today. But so I got out there, I ran, and the soreness was pretty intense. But I kept a good pace. I actually kept the pace that I wanted to keep on Sunday. That just didn't happen. But as I said, you know, I can't be that upset. I know it was my last best chance to PR a marathon for this year. And it's going to be a while before I'm running another marathon, but that's okay, because as I said, you know, I still was my second best time. I was definitely ill. I had everything against me. It is what it is, right? Which brings me up to a point in my other club, the Marathon Maniacs. On their Facebook page, I guess some people were being disparaging about people with slightly slower times. Listen, if you're out there and you're doing it, and you're doing it at whatever pace you can do it, right? And like all my slower times, I was as fast as I could go. I realized that it was internal, it was mental, it was slowing me down. That's fine. That's still as fast as I was able to go. Some people cannot go that fast. I have friends who, they feel bad that they're so slow. But they shouldn't. They're still out there. They're still doing the distances. They're still completing the race. A race is about the struggle between you and yourself, and keeping yourself going for whatever distance it is. Okay? It's not a struggle between you and the clock, and it's not a struggle between you and everyone else in front of or behind you. Right? I don't care where everyone finishes. I care that everyone finishes. That's it. All you got to do is finish and you win. That's the way I see it. Because we're not all built like an elite long distance runner. We cannot be built like an elite long distance runner. Okay? Not everyone can run a 2-hour and 5-minute marathon, 2-hour 10-minute marathon, 2-hour 15-minute marathon. Can't be done. Okay? You know, if I worked really hard, if I really concentrated and really put in a lot of work, could I be a lot faster? Yeah. I mean, physiologically, yes, I can. I can be faster. I could probably, if I wanted to put in the work, qualify for Boston and any other race that I wanted to. But I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, and I don't have the drive to do that. Okay? People start giving me, promotional deals, and maybe that's a different story. But until then, no. I gotta work. I gotta, make money, and so I don't have all the hours to dedicate to being super fast for a super long amount of time. Not gonna happen. Would I ever be able to compete with the world elites? No, definitely not. Not gonna happen. Never. Part of it, I think I'm too tall. Even though I'm not that tall, but it seems like most elites are shorter than I am. Which at 5'10" is saying something. Just based on what I know. I don't know, maybe there are people that are taller than me, but it seems like most folks are kind of short and light, and they don't have giant leg muscles. They just have strong, enduring leg muscles, and they tend not to cramp up as much as mine do. So I'm going to say no, probably not. My physiology was not meant to run really fast for a really long time, but I certainly was meant to endure, and I can do that. So that's how I do. I feel like, so I feel bad, but at the same time I feel like I accomplished something, I got something done. And everyone that ever finishes a race should never care about what time they're finishing in, because they did the best that they could in the conditions on that day for them. And that's something to be proud of. And anyone who says otherwise basically is a bag of shit. There you go. Some people are probably offended, but it's not up to you to judge the performance of other people when it comes to this sort of stuff. It's not up to you to judge other people, period. But we're talking about running here. So, just whatever it is what it is. So, kind of lay off and whatever. So, other than that, my computer will be back. So I will be back. I will put up the previous weeks that have been missed podcasts on iTunes and get that done as soon as I have the opportunity to, which should be sometime next week, hopefully prior to Thursday. I don't know. They did fix it. They are sending it back, and they chose the slowest possible option to get it here, which is UPS Ground. There was a day and time when UPS and FedEx were cheaper and faster than the Postal Service. And then something happened somewhere along the way, and now they are no longer cheaper and faster than the Postal Service. But for some reason, companies still stick with UPS and FedEx. And it makes no sense to me, and I wish that they wouldn't. I wish that they would go with cheap and fast, which is the United States Postal Service. I got that laptop to them in 2 days. 2 days for like $20, which is like peanuts when you're talking about shipping about 10 pounds worth of gear. So how they, decided to turn around and send it UPS Ground, it's going to take a week to get here. And it probably cost them more. I didn't check into it, but I will bet you anything 10 pounds of UPS Ground probably cost them more than it did just to send it flat rate from the United States Postal Service, which would have gotten here in 2 days. And I don't understand that. But I don't really care. They fixed the laptop apparently. It'll work, and then I'll be able to get back to doing what I was doing, and hopefully I'll be able to expand my kit and get everything set and start really giving this some production value and some good stuff going. I'm gonna cough. It's all kind of part of being sick. My throat gets dry, I start coughing. So, because I can't breathe through my nose, as you can tell. I'm sorry for the sniffles and everything. Just if I have a choice, I send things through the United States Postal Service. It just makes more sense. It's cheaper, it's faster. and you know, it's easier. But for whatever reason, these guys, you know, they do it the way that they do it. It's a mess, whatever. So there we have it. As I said, I should have my new watch by Saturday, maybe Monday, and then we'll mess around with it. We'll see what's up, and we'll see how it goes. On a personal note, I have shutters on my, they're purely decorative shutters on my house now, and gutters. So now the rain won't fall directly onto the foundation. It'll come out and do its thing. I'm very excited about it. It makes the house look very complete, very nice. I have my whole house water filter coming in, and I will get that installed next week when it comes in. Now, you know, people are like, well, I get filtered water from my refrigerator. The water dispenser on the refrigerator takes care of that. But here's the thing. Filtered water makes cleaner clothes in your washing machine. When you're cooking and you're filling up a pot, you have filtered water in there. And there are studies that are showing that when you boil just plain old city water or treated water in any way, shape, or form that hasn't been filtered, it actually ends up concentrating a lot of things like the chlorine and fluoride and stuff, which in high concentrations, those things are not good for the human body. In low concentrations, it's good to kill off bacteria and stuff like that in the water. But in high concentrations, it can be harmful to human beings because we are bigger creatures, so it takes more of it to affect us. So when you boil off water, you're boiling off the water, but the chlorine, fluoride, and other chemicals are still there, right? So it gets more concentrated. So now you're drinking more of it, you're taking in more of it. So, you know, reason to put a whole house filter on your house. And then, I mean, you can go to any tap and get water if you're not concerned about how cold the water is, and just drink it too. And then you're not using water bottles and stuff like that. And water bottles, I've talked about this, they clog up the environment. I mean, we have water bottles and all sorts of plastic junk out in the middle of these completely uninhabited islands in the South Pacific, which is, you know, the most remote places on Earth from human activity, and plastic washes up there. Why? Because we have so much of it, and it gets everywhere, and we drop it everywhere because, you know, we're driving down the road and we throw it out the car window thinking, oh, well, the street sweeper will get it or whatever. But what really happens is that the rain comes, it washes it into, you know, an area that floods out and shoots it into the water system, right? Gets it into a bay, gets it into a river where it, you know, flows into the ocean. Next thing you know, the tides take it out and it lands somewhere near Midway, okay? And you have all these albatrosses and different creatures that fly thousands and thousands of miles, end up with it, you know, they feed it to they feed it to their babies ingest it. We find, you know, just traveling around, different biologists and stuff find all these creatures dead on beaches, guts filled with plastic lighters and plastic bottle caps and all this stuff, because their parents thought it was food and they fed it to them, and, you know, just fills them up, and they have no room to get real food, and that kills them because you can't break down plastic. No creature can break down plastic. Well, that's not true. There are some bacteria that can break down plastic that we've been developing, which, I mean, why do you need to develop something that's going to take care of the problem that you've created when you can just take care of the problem that you created by not using the things that create the problem, right? But, so, point being, you cut down on plastic bottle usage because apparently no one wants to drink just plain water anymore. They want it, you know, filtered and pure and natural and this, that, the other thing. Well, buying it out of a plastic bottle is not natural. So get a whole house filter, then you reduce the amount of plastic that you're using, and, you know, you're just filling up a glass with water, you're getting nice, pure, tasteless water to drink and cook with and clean with and whatever. So that is my argument for a whole house filter. They're not particularly expensive. You can usually put one in for about $100 or less, all told. The units themselves can range, depending on what you're getting, anywhere from, like 20 to $80. And then fittings and stuff like that, are going to range depending on what type of fittings you're going to use. If you want to solder pipes, you can solder pipes. If you're using PEX, do you have the crib tool, stuff like that. All that's going to factor into the price of things. I'm just going to end up using shark bites because it's just easier. They're a little bit more expensive than regular fittings, but you don't have to deal with all the crap. And like, usually I'm okay with soldering, but sometimes it's just frustrating and tiring. And at this point, I don't want to do that much work. So I'm going to do a very simple system. I'm going to branch it off from the main. I'm going to, put a shut off on either side of it, and I'm going to put a shut off on the main. And this way, what'll end up happening is, if I need to disengage the filter for any reason to do any work, I can turn on the main and it'll just, go up, and then I can take everything apart and do the work that I need to do. So, I'm going to cough again. And I'm also yawning. Go figure. The wonders of being sick. That's where we're at with that. So, I'll get it all together. Maybe I'll share the design with you guys when I'm done, so I can show you what I'm talking about, so you can be like, oh, okay. And that way, maybe you're encouraged to do it yourself. You want to make sure that these things are supported and, out of the way. I will take care of all that as well. And as I said, I'll take some pictures, I'll post it up, and I'll show you what we're doing. I'm also going to move the water dispenser to a more sensible location, because that's tying into where I need to put the filter, which actually ends up working out because they used one of those taps that goes in, and the tap obviously was going to leave a hole in the pipe when I moved everything. So now I'm just going to cut that pipe out and have it replaced with something that's going to work much better for me, and life will be good. So we'll get all that done and share it with you, and then maybe you'll have a little project that you can do on your own. So for Thanksgiving today, I did do the butter planccini. Okay, butternut squash, eggplant, zucchini. And then you take like the insides that you've scraped out and you make a stuffing out of it, and you put that in there, and then you have like a couple scallions in there, and cut it, bake it up with your butter maple syrup blend thing, and you bake it up, chop it up, eat it. It's pretty good. I'm going to tweak it before I share. I need to tweak it a little bit more. I did a few things a little bit different, and so I'm gonna tweak it. I'm gonna see what more I can do with it and go from there, and then I'll share it with you guys. It was my first completely meatless Thanksgiving, so, which is not that hard because most sides don't have meat in them. So I had my butter planccini. I had candied sweet potatoes, which I love. Probably my favorite side dish. I had the stuffing. I had mashed potatoes. No gravy, obviously. There was green bean casserole. Who doesn't love green bean casserole, right? So there's plenty of stuff. Rolls, all that good crap. So there's plenty of stuff to eat. It was a good time. Good time was had by all. Nobody argued politics. Luckily, the people that normally argued politics were injured to begin with, so we didn't have too much to worry about. Life worked out well that way. I have my vegetarian Italian stuffing waiting for me. Italian stuffing, for those who may not know, the normal bread stuffing that everybody has. It's like that kind of stovetop stuffing, and a lot of people will not use the stovetop stuffing per se, but they'll use something similar with celery, onions, you know, American bread that's been toasted up and torn up, and you know, Italian stuffing is different. Basically, you take Italian bread and you mix it up, and you mix in Parmesan cheese, and normally the regular version you'd put in Italian sausage and raisins and pinoles, pine nuts. Pinoles are the same thing as pine nuts. And you mix it all together with some other stuff, and then you bake it up, and it's very tasty. But of course, I'm not doing sausage. So I took a vegetarian sausage. It needed some fennel, because Italian sausage, really that flavor that you get from Italian sausage is pretty much fennel. Some fennel, some red pepper, mixed it in, mix that together, put it in, same way, and baked it up. And I'm going to bet you it's going to be pretty good. I'm going to try that out in a little bit, because we're going to take that stuff to my aunt's house, because nobody else eats it. I'm like the only one that eats it. My grandma eats it, my mom eats it, my little brother eats it. Nobody else seems to want it. So a lot of people don't like raisins. I don't think my mom likes raisins. For whatever reason, people in my house don't like raisins, and people in my family don't like raisins. I don't know what's wrong with them. I love raisins. Raisins, figs, I love dried fruit. So, you know, it's very tasty, and we will use that later as my other side that, you know, I will have. And then I have to do everything over again on Saturday at my father's house up in Massachusetts, because that's apparently how we roll now. I have to do 2 holidays all the time instead of just doing one, simply because of the distance between my father and his children. Because we all live down here and he lives all the way up there, so we have to go. So it's kind of annoying, but it gets the job done, and that's that. So Saturday I gotta go up there, eat everything all over again, overeat once again. But I'm gonna run, and I'm kind of upset though, because Manchester United's playing Leicester City. Leicester City is in first place of the English Premier League, Barclays Premier League, sorry. Manchester United is 1 point behind in second place. If Manchester United wins, they will go top of the table, uncontested. And that starts at 12:30, and we have to leave for my father's house at noon. So I'm going to be sitting there in the car with my nieces and nephew and my sister and brother-in-law, and I will be watching on my phone, and I will not be paying attention to pretty much anything else, because yeah, it's that important, because this is first place. And Manchester United totally screwed it up last night, playing Eindhoven in the UEFA Champions League. All they needed to do was just score 1 goal, win the match, and they would have advanced onto the round of 16. Did they win? No. So now they have to go to the final match day in group play on the road in Wolfsburg against, you know, one of the best teams in Germany, and they have to win in order to secure the fact that they're going to move on, because they couldn't score 1 single goal at home. And they're just really bad at scoring goals for some reason recently, and they need to knock it off. So, enough bitching about English Premier League. But I will be watching on the car ride to see what happens. You know, other than that, just trying to get everything else set. Trying to get things settled around the house. Trying to get things settled with a job, things like that. I'm to the point I'm pretty much going to start contacting some old bosses, see if they have any openings at their particular places of business, and just, you know, because I need some sort of paycheck coming in. Unemployment does not cut it. So we'll get that worked out, we'll get it figured out, and see where everything goes. beyond that, you know, there's a little bit more work to do at the house. The back, the house, we need the gutters on, which will happen tomorrow. The floor in the basement still got to get redone. I still got to do the sump pump. Haven't gotten around to that. And some storage options around the house, and we're pretty much done, which is nice. It's nice to be pretty much done, to see an end, finally a real end to the madness that has been this whole mess. And just, you know, I'd never wish it on anyone, that's for sure. So, you know, that's that. That's where we're at. You know, other than that, I'm actually kind of out of ideas for today. It's the first time this has really happened. I've had a couple times where I've struggled to get through a show, but I've never really cut short. I think a lot of it has to do with the holiday. A lot of it probably has to do with the several glasses of wine and the martini that I've had today. Possible. Because you never know what Thanksgiving brings, right? So my kind of theory on it is load up on alcohol and hope nobody gets into too big of an argument. I don't like arguments happening around me. It makes me very uncomfortable. Even when I'm in an argument, it makes me uncomfortable. I don't like being in arguments. Never have, and I never will. So I kind of tend to get loaded to kind of avoid the arguments, or try to avoid the arguments. Because if I'm pretty loaded, it means I'm not really paying that much attention to things. So we do that. And of course, we never drink and drive because that's just silly. So that's something to think about. You know, if you're out there, if you're drinking, please don't get in a car and drive until you feel that you are sober enough, which usually 1 hour for every drink, unless you metabolize alcohol quickly, at which point you don't need to follow the 1 hour for every drink. But I think most people don't really give themselves enough time. They don't really know how inebriated, how, you know, what's the word I'm thinking of? Come on. How distracted they can be, how restrained, no. You know, they're not really sure how uncoordinated they are at the particular moment in time where they're at. So give yourself enough time. Don't be in a rush to get anywhere. If you've been drinking, just take your time and wait till you're sober and then get in your car and go. Please do that. It's a favor to everyone, because chances are you're not just saving your own life. Most of the time, you know, you're saving someone else's life, because, you know, being more relaxed when you have an accident, your body tends to take less damage. So usually, a lot of times, the people who get really badly hurt in drunk driving accidents are not the people who have been drinking. So do not drink and drive. I actually used to work with a guy who he had lost his son, and that was a very touching story when he told us that. So it's one of those things that's going to stick with you when you hear someone tell that story and you see the way it affects them as they're telling the story. It's never going to leave you. It will always stay with you. So, and hopefully it will encourage you to say the same thing. Don't drink and drive. Make sure you wait, and make sure everyone around you waits until they are good enough to go. You know, it's worth, that is something that's worth the uncomfortable argument. Okay, so, you know, keep that in mind as you're out there. You know, the holiday season has started. You have to deal with family a lot. People are prone to drink more because of that. And so it is definitely something to keep in mind. Plus, you know, people want to let loose and party. And yeah, so just take it easy out there. And, you know, if you've been drinking, you know, take your time on your way home. You know, if you're not feeling it and you got to get out of the place where you are, it's closing down, whatever, sleep in your car, whatever, you know. Do whatever you got to do until you're sober enough to drive home and you're not going to be a danger to yourself and other people. That's pretty important. You know, because mistakes like that, there's no coming back from it. You know, there's no turning around. So be smart about it. That is probably the best holiday message there is. But it is the holiday season. Thanksgiving's pretty much over. By the time this gets up on the, you know, the YouTubes and up on the website, Thanksgiving is going to be done. Did I say Halloween? I don't know. I'm a little, as I said, I'm still a little distracted. So, Thanksgiving's going to be over, and that means that you can finally, I'm sure that some of you have, you can finally put out the Christmas decorations and all that good stuff. I'm not a fan of Christmas decorations. I don't like being up on ladders. I'm not a fan of hanging up Christmas decorations. I have a feeling I'm going to end up putting up some Christmas decorations anyway, but that's neither here nor there. Here's the thing. Remember, Krampus is coming too. Over the last couple of years, Krampus has grown in popularity. They're actually making a movie about him. I'm not really excited about seeing the movie. I kind of just like the old fairy tales and kind of the pop culture hints and things that have been sparsely put out throughout the years, making it kind of funny and jovial and, you know, kinky Germanic demon, you know, going around beating kids in sacks with branches and, you know, generally punishing the wicked on Christmas Eve. And, you know, whatever. It's kind of fun. It's more fun than, oh, you'll get coal in your stocking, you know. If you've ever seen the Venture Brothers, you get where I'm saying kinky Germanic demon, because their version of Krampus comes out and he's got like shackles on and he starts dry humping Dr. Venture. It's a very funny scene. It's on adultswim.com. I suggest you look it up. Because it always gets me laughing. Even thinking about it gets me laughing. I love Krampus just because of that scene. But I've always been aware of Krampus. I have friends who kind of do, you know, have always kind of been into that sort of, you know, dark, twisted, you know, Germanic mythology where they talked about that stuff. And it was always kind of an interesting idea about you had Santa Claus going out, St. Nicholas or whatever, and he had a counterpart traveling with him named Krampus. And, you know, he was out there punishing the wicked and, you know, and Santa was, you know, helping out the good people. So, it's funny, and at the same time it's kind of poignant and everything else. So, you know, something to think about. If you want to go see the movie, go see the movie, whatever. I'll give it this, and the one reason why I would consider going, at least it's like an original movie. I don't like the idea of, you know, kind of things that I like getting into pop culture, but that's the way that it is sometimes. And then everyone becomes an expert on the things that I knew about before them. God, I sound like a hipster, but that's just not the way it is. It's, you know, just there are these little weird things that I happen to have learned about at some point, and I always thought it was cool, and they end up becoming things, and then everyone else becomes an expert on it. And when I say, oh, well, you know, I knew about this, then everyone just kind of is like, oh, you sure you did? It's like, no, really, I'm not much of a nerd. But so yeah, you know, it's something original coming out at least. Whereas like they remade, crap. What was that movie that I saw that they remade, and I was like, why did they remake that? I can't even think of it at this point. In fact, we were talking about it because the commercial came on. We were all sitting around watching TV this afternoon. It was just silly. It was just that silly that I can't think of it too. I'm having a mess of a show today. So, you know, and we were talking about Christmas Vacation and Family Vacation, and yeah, it's the second generation, but at the same time, it's kind of a remake. I was talking about my reticence to go see Star Wars because of the mess that they made the previous three, and also because it's like, you know, with Star Trek, when J.J. Abrams did Star Trek, it wasn't really Star Trek. It was just action adventure sci-fi movie with Star Trek, you know, badging, with Star Trek, you know, drapes on it. You could have put it in any situation. It would have been It would have worked. It would have been enjoyable. Blah blah blah. But it's not Star Trek, because Star Trek is inspirational. Star Trek is cutting edge. Star Trek is all these things that this movie was not. It was the safe action adventure sci-fi movie, and that's not what Star Trek is. Okay, Star Trek has a soul. It has a point. It has a moral to it. And this movie, the recent movies that they've made, don't. That's my problem with them. I don't feel that soul there. And a lot of Hollywood doesn't have that soul. They just kind of remake whatever they think is going to be safe to give people a feeling of nostalgia for when they were, you know, young or whatever. And, that's all they do. So I got to give it to Krampus for being original. And I hope that they do it right and keep it funny and scary. Because it should be kind of scary. The idea of Krampus is actually kind of a terrifying thing if you're prone to believe things like that. It's probably a very good way to keep children in line back in the Middle Ages and shit. But, at the same time, like, it's gotta be kind of funny, because you're talking about this weird Germanic demon going around punishing kids. And obviously, as adults we know, Santa isn't real. Ergo, Krampus isn't real, right? I don't want to ruin it for anyone. Spoiler alert, no such thing as Santa Claus. So, there is that. But it's funny because the comment ended up getting made today. Oh, well, everything is a remake nowadays in Hollywood. That's just the way that it is. So, as I said, kudos to Krampus for not being a remake, for keeping it real, and doing something original. So that might actually get me out to the theaters to see it. Now that Thanksgiving is over, I can worry about these things. I can start thinking about Christmas. I don't like the obvious, could you guess? I'm not a fan of the advertisements. I don't watch the parades because there's advertisements. And it's funny that some stations today were saying Macy's, some weren't. It's very interesting. From somebody who was in the media, I understand where that's coming from. I mean, some stations got paid to say Macy's, some did not. It's very interesting how that all works. It's a really weird dynamic. Once you are in that sort of stuff and you have that knowledge and you apply it as you're watching, it kind of ruins things for you, but at the same time it makes it more interesting as well. Because you see, like, oh, well, they must not have paid for that. Or, oh, they must not have gotten permission for that on either side. And it makes it very interesting. So, little things here and there that just make life a little bit more fun. So, other than that, I've talked your ear off enough. It's been a rambling mess. I'm sorry for that. I will do better next week, I promise. Or maybe you really enjoyed it. If you really enjoyed it, then share it, get it out there, spread the word, spread the gospel. I need to shave as well. So we will see you next week. share, talk, discuss, talk to me, yell at me, do whatever you want. I don't care. Other than that, have fun, keep running, and remember, if Gil can run, so can you.